Hi, I'm Tom Brookshire.
And I'm Pat Summerall. Last week, the Miami Dolphins finally did what we've been expecting for a while now. They became the only team ever to win their first 14 games of the season, and they could go 17-0, I guess.
Well, Pat, that's right, but I have a feeling the next three are going to be tougher to get than the first 14 were. And as far as our own personal playoff picture goes, I'm 21-17, and I think you're just short of that.
I'm ashamed, and I'm in big trouble at 14-24. At any rate, like so many teams in the NFL, I can only say, wait till next year.
We've got a lot of action for you, though, this week, because we've got 13 games instead of the usual 12. And at the end of our show, we're going to be making our selections for Best of the Year.
Against the Houston Oilers last week in the Astrodome, the Cincinnati Bengals took out all the frustration they felt at not making the playoffs, and Houston ended their season at the bottom of the NFL well.
Happy moments have been few and far between in Houston's Astrodome this season. But for most of the first half, the Oilers played like a team contending for a playoff berth. Kent Nix directed the Oiler offense and passed his team confidently through the heavily favored Cincinnati Bengals. Nix threw to Fred Willis for a 14-yard touchdown, and the Oilers had the lead 10-3. But in the second half, the Bengals roared to life and clawed the frightened Oilers to shreds. The Oilers were buried alive under the repeated assaults of Cincinnati's fired-up rush line. The Bengals front four could have really taken it easy and just sat back and watched Lamar Parrish, number 20, single-handedly destroy the Oilers. Parrish intercepted 3 passes and turned the game into a red-faced rout. Parrish picked off one sideline pass and galloped in for a score. "42 seconds later, following Cincinnati's kickoff, Houston quarterback Ed Baker tried another sideline pass, and Parrish intercepted again and returned it for another touchdown. Three minutes later, Neil Craig pulled down one of Baker's passes, and he too raced for a Bengal score. The Bengal offense was not as spectacular as the defense, but they too put points on the board. Running back Doug Dressler, a 3-year veteran from Chico State College, scored 3 times, twice on runs and once on a pass from quarterback Ken Anderson. When it was finally over, the Bengals had amassed 61 points, and hapless Houston had lost its 13th game.
In Denver, the Broncos and Patriots met in a game of little import as far as the rest of the league was concerned.
Pat, there was something at stake, though, because for either team, a win meant a chance to avoid the cellar in their respective divisions.
Despite the thin air of Denver, neither the Broncos nor the Patriots had much reason to feel lightheaded, as both had clinched losing seasons long ago. Still, the Patriots hope to make interim head coach Phil Bengson's probable farewell a happy one with a victory. Meanwhile, John Ralston was ducking the lightning bolts of Jim Plunkett, a big stepping stone blocking Denver's hoped exit from the AFC West Division basement. Plunkett proved less of an obstacle than expected as the Broncos kerplunked Plunkett 6 times, held him touchdown passless, and forced him into literally off-balance deliveries. Not to be outdone by Plunkett's passing polish, Bronco quarterback Charlie Johnson exhibited a unique handoff style. For New England, their best offensive weapon was the pass interference play. Bill Thompson's premature tackle on Reggie Rucker set up a short scoring run by Carl Garrett. Later, an interference call on Chip Myrtle set up this Garrett touchdown. The Patriots managed 21 points, which used to be enough to beat Denver, but not anymore. Last week, Denver scored 38. And this week, Bill Thompson's 59-yard punt return started a 45-point Bronco bustout. Thompson's return set up one of two Floyd Little touchdown plunges, and a 15-yard burst by Fran Lynch gave the Broncos 3 touchdowns via ground assault. When the infantry wasn't doing it, the Air Force was. This Steve Ramsey to Rod Sherman rocket went for 51 yards, the game's longest play. While Ramsey won long ball honors, Johnson was throwing 3 touchdown passes. The first, a 20-yarder to Sherman. In all, 10 different receivers caught passes for 341 yards. Haven Moses caught 3, including this 22-yarder for a score. For his last touchdown toss, Johnson hit Moses again, and he showed what the phrase "good hands" means. The 45-21 win, coupled with the San Diego loss, enabled Denver to finish out of the cellar in the AFC West for the first time in 5 years.
In New York, the Jets faced the Cleveland Browns, who paid little heed to the elements in their quest to capture first place in the AFC Central Division.
At Shea Stadium, the wind chill factor registered 15 below, but neither frigid temperatures nor chilly winds could stay the diehard. The swirling winds turned Shea into a dust bowl and made every pass an adventure for Mike Phipps and his frozen-fingered receivers. So the Browns stuck to the ground and were rewarded with a pretty 27-yard touchdown run by Bo Scott. Scott's score gave Cleveland a 7-0 lead, but the Jets came back to tie the game on a short burst by Emerson Boozer. Then the Browns' defense rose up and clamped down on the Jets' runners. New York used Bob Davis instead of injured Joe Namath. This pass was deflected and intercepted by tackle Walter Johnson, number 71. Many times, Mike Phipps secured valuable first down yardage on his own. Some of his runs were design plays, but many were the result of Phipps' ability to turn busted plays into long gainers. With the score tied at 10 in the third quarter, Phipps revved up his seldom-used right arm and tossed an 80-yard touchdown to Frank Pitts, the Browns' only legitimate game breaker. In the last quarter, Phipps put the game out of reach with 2 passes. The first went to Fair Hooker, who made an incredible catch. The second was a bullet to the post to Frank Pitts, as the Browns' 26-10 victory vaulted them from the cold into a playoff meeting with the sun-kissed Dolphins in Miami.
I read in the paper, Pat, where Art Rooney, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, gave out cigars after his game with the Chargers last week.
That's what I hear, Tom, and I guess I'd hand out cigars, too, if my 39-year-old baby finally got up and knocked out every bully in the division.
Last September, Steeler coach Chuck Noll predicted his team would bring the city of Pittsburgh its first football divisional championship. At 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Noll's prediction came true when his team crushed the San Diego Chargers 24-2. The Steelers stormed to victory with a furious defense that forced John Hadle into throwing 4 interceptions. Mel Blount, number 47, stole this pass and returned it 34 yards. Out-hit and out-hustled by the Steeler defense, the Chargers failed to cross midfield in the first half. Andy Russell, number 34, the Steelers' veteran linebacker, spearheaded the Steeler defense, which completely muffled San Diego's attack. Mike Garrett, number 20, who had gained over 1,000 yards going into the game, was held to a grand total of 5 yards rushing. The Chargers lost the ball 3 times on fumbles and never threatened the Steelers' goal line. Terry Bradshaw directed the Steeler offense and repeatedly connected with his eager young receivers, Al Young, number 31, and John McMakin, number 89. Bradshaw teamed with Ron Shanklin for a 17-yard score and then handed to Franco Harris for another, as the Steelers closed out their greatest season ever with their 11th victory and the division title.
Last week in St. Louis, the Eagles finished a dismal season in which they lost just about everything, including their coach, Ed Kayette, and their general manager, Pete Retzlaff, whereas the winning Cardinals only lost their coach, Bob Hollway.
Some called it the inverted Super Bowl. Whatever it was, it represented the end to a dismal season for both St. Louis and Philadelphia. For Harold Jackson, it was an ironic way to end up as the league's leading receiver. But for the Eagle offense, it was business as usual. Jim Hart, following up a surprising win over the Los Angeles Rams, gave St. Louis fans some satisfaction early in the first quarter with his 56-yard pass to Donnie Anderson, which set up a 1-yard Anderson plunge and a 7-0 St. Louis lead. Hart came back with a perfect 41-yard strike to rookie Bobby Moore, and the Big Red led 14-0 in the first quarter. After 3 Tom Dempsey field goals, Hart, having one of his best days ever, gave St. Louis a 21-9 third quarter bulge with his 65-yarder to Walker Gillette. But the Eagles still had some life left in their hapless attack. Rookie quarterback John Reeves hooked up with giant Harold Carmichael for a 54-yard gain. Three plays later, Reeves again connected with Harold Carmichael, and the Eagles had closed the gap to 21-16. Jim Bakken added a St. Louis field goal to make it St. Louis 24-16. Then timeout was called, and Larry Wilson accepted the game ball, and his incredible 13-year career officially came to an end. 8 times All-Pro, 52 interceptions, the innovator of the safety blitz. For Larry Wilson, 13 super years can only lead to a well-earned spot in the Hall of Fame. With Wilson gone and Bob Hallway in his last minutes as head coach of the Cardinals, John Reeves found Billy Wallach in the end zone for one last gasp, but the Big Red won 24-23. The final score assured one record for the Eagles, the worst scoring offense ever in a 14-game season.
While the lowly Cardinals and Eagles dismally played out the string, the New York Giants were playing with the big boys.
Before the game, your old friend Alex Webster said that a victory over the Dallas Cowboys would provide his improving Giants with some firm footing for their run at a championship next year.
Before the game, Alex Webster and Tom Landry had a friendly chat. Then the whistle blew, and Alex unchained his Giants, and the ball-hawking big city boys devoured every loose ball. The old coast-to-coast combination of Craig Morton to Bob Hayes ran afoul of free safety Spider Lockhart's meticulous timing. In the early going, quarterback Norm Snead's impeccable generalship fell prey to Rich Houston's fickle fingers. Undaunted, Snead eye-faked Cowboy safety Cornell Green, number 34. Green went one way while Snead delivered a perfect pass to Ron Johnson for a touchdown. Airtight protection allowed Snead to riddle the notoriously porous Cowboy secondary. The Cowboys were forced to blitz, and Snead dropped a pass over number 52, Dave Edwards, to Rich Houston, who beat Charlie Waters for a score, and New York led 20-3. The sleepwalking Cowboys sparked to life when Charlie Waters stole a Snead pass intended for Houston. Waters seemed on his way to a certain score when Houston burned up to catch him. The stunned Cowboys were never able to register a touchdown, even with Roger Staubach at quarterback. Roger's arm was willing, but his instincts were bad, and the airtight Giant secondary, led by Willie Williams, number 41, snapped shut on his home run throws. Williams palmed the ball like it was a grape as New York showboated past the playoff-bound Cowboys. The Dodger was never able to escape the relentless pursuit of number 81, Jack Gregory. And by game's end, the Giants wrapped up Dallas neatly and won a convincing 23-3 victory.
Last week in rainy, muddy Oakland, the Raiders met the Chicago Bears in a tune-up game before their playoff debut.
And the only bright tune for Chicago was the performance of their all-purpose running back, Bobby Douglas.
Neither murky skies nor muddy fields seemed to bother number 48, Ron Smith, as he took the opening kickoff 94 yards to give the Chicago Bears a quick lead over the playoff-bound Oakland Raiders. And things looked even bleaker as Darryl LaMonica's pass was intercepted by Charlie Ford, number 32. But the poised Raiders pulled in their belts, and led by number 34, Gus Otto, they began to stick. Kenny Stabler came in and hit Charlie Smith with his second scoring reception of the day, and the Raiders led 14-7. The Bears roared back, and on a block punt touchdown, they tied the game at 14. However, the most amazing feat of the day was performed by Bobby Douglas, number 10, who rushed for 127 yards on 14 carries to finish the season with 968 yards. Not too bad for a quarterback. But the Raiders' more conventional ground attack proved stronger as Clarence Davis, number 28, sloshed 45 yards to a score to give Oakland victory number 10.
Both the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions had disappointing seasons this year, and both had problem areas.
Perhaps the Rams had the most problems, though, as again last week they turned in a performance that was inconsistent on both offense and defense.
Being coach of this year's version of the Los Angeles Rams has been a walking nightmare. Game after game, Coach Tommy Prothro has witnessed the numerous miscues of his unhealthy quarterback Roman Gabriel and the rest of the Rams offense. Last week against the Lions, an inconsistent Los Angeles defense sometimes managed to sparkle. In the early going, Landry's problems included Jim Nettles, number 19, who managed to snare a tip pass and move the Rams into scoring position before an irritated Greg Landry put him down hard. Then Gabriel connected with Lance Rensel, number 13, to push the Rams into the lead. Rookie Jim Bertelson, number 45, exploded for 60 yards on a punt return, but was eventually grounded on the Lions' 7-yard line, only to have the inconsistent Ram offense prove unable to capitalize with a score. With the Rams now faltering, Greg Landry combined with tight end Charlie Sanders, number 88, for a near touchdown. Then number 42, Algie Taylor, took a handoff and plunged over for the Lion tally. Once again, the Rams' sore-armed inconsistency hurt them badly, and Detroit's Rudy Redmond hurt them even worse by intercepting Gabriel's pass and jaunting 88 yards to the end zone. Charlie Sanders continued to evade the Rams' defense and advanced the Lions' score by gathering in 2 short Landry tosses for touchdowns. In a battle of little consequence, the Lions soundly subdued the ever-faltering Rams in the season finale of a disappointing year for both teams.
Last week, the Washington Redskins met the Buffalo Bills, who finished their season with a big win. Of course, the Redskins still have a shot at ending their season with the biggest win of all.
Last week, the Wind was playing some funny tricks in RFK Stadium. The Bills' cold-weather defense was playing some tricks of its own, as Redskin runner Herbert Mulkey, number 28, found out. Skins quarterback Billy Kilmer couldn't blame the Wind for this one, as Alvin Wyatt, number 41, intercepted and breezed in to give the Bills a 10-0 lead. The Washington retaliatory attack was led by Herb Mulkey, as he flashed for 35 yards in this play. Mulkey's touchdown then gave the Redskins a 17-10 lead. Infantry ground power was the Bills' answer, as O.J. Simpson, the NFL's leading rusher, knotted the game at 17 all. In trying to break the deadlock, Billy Kilmer's pass to Mulkey was fumbled and then intercepted by Dale Farley, number 57, who returned it 42 yards. Two plays later, Jim Braxton, number 34, blasted in as the upward-bound Buffalo Bills bounced the playoff-bound Washington Redskins 24-17.
Washington's playoff opponent, Green Bay, finished a sunny regular season schedule in sunny New Orleans.
And Pat, it's been a great year for the Gold and Green, whereas for the Saints, it's been another year of hard lessons learned.
Things have been shaky and frustrating for the Saints all year. This young lady only added fuel to the fires of frustration. Last week against the Packers, it was frustration even on kickoffs, as Margene Atkins, number 26, so ineptly displayed. There was frustration written all over the face of Archie Manning as he got a close-up of the Green Bay defense. And even when the Saints did right, it turned out wrong and frustrating as the Ron Whitby to Ray Nitschke combo hit for a first down. Scott Hunter, number 16, finished the job, and Green Bay was on the way. Number 36, MacArthur Lane, provided ground power as he gunned his way through the New Orleans defense. Then Jerry Taggy, riding behind a dark green wave, rolled in for the score. But just as it looked like the Pack had nothing to kick about, they were forced to punt. The punt was somewhat misplaced, and the Saints' Richard Neal, number 87, turned it into a New Orleans score. On a repeat, we can see that Ron Whitby's punt hit Jim Carter, number 50, and the Saints gobbled up the score. The unusual tally put some life into the Saints offense, and Archie hit Bill Butler, number 38, for a touchdown. Manning then whistled one to Margene Adkins, who made a good catch despite some hangers-on. Then it was Manning to Dave Parks, number 83, but the Saints' comeback was too little too late, and they ended their season of frustration with a 30-20 loss to the team that's back where the Saints have never been.
Last week, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Falcons met in a game that had no playoff reward at stake. Yet each team had its reasons for wanting to win.
For Hank Stram, a win against the Falcons would avert his worst record since 1963. For Norm Van Brocklin, a victory over the Chiefs would give him his best record ever as head coach of the Rising Falcons. The Atlanta offense moved well against the once stout Chief defense in the first two quarters, and this 39-yard Bob Berry pass to Jim Mitchell set up a 1-yard Art Malone touchdown and a 7-3 halftime lead for the Falcons. Len Dawson, closing out his 16th season with an 18-for-26 performance, put the Chiefs in the lead with this 15-yard touchdown pass to Otis Taylor. Midway in the final quarter, Berry regained the lead for Atlanta with this 17-yard peg to Ken Burrow. The happy Falcons cinched a victory. But old pro Lenny Dawson capped a methodical 81-yard drive with time winning with a 7-yard pass to Ed Podolak. Podolak's catch gave the Chiefs a 17-14 win and closed out one of their most disappointing seasons on a somewhat happy note. But it was still hard to forget the preseason Super Bowl hopes which flew so high in Kansas City. For Dave Hampton, number 43, the day was hard to forget, period. Through 14 games, Hampton had hammered into defenses, giving power to the Atlanta offense. Today was to be his turn to go over the magic 1,000-yard mark. At halftime, he was honored as Atlanta's most valuable player. Then early in the fourth quarter, he cracked through the 1,000-yard barrier and got a game ball and a standing ovation. Incredibly, a few plays later, he was thrown for a 6-yard loss, which put him back under 1,000 yards, and he never regained the lost yards. At game's end, all he could do was kiss the milestone goodbye and wonder what could possibly be more frustrating.
The San Francisco 49ers had to overcome the Minnesota Vikings in order to claim the championship of the NFC West.
You were out there, Pat. In order to do that, an old hand named John Brody had to reach deep into his bag of Christmas tricks. I'm not too sure whether or not I believe what the Miami Dolphins accomplished this year. I never thought a team could get through it all undefeated, but the Dolphins did it, and I'm glad I was around to see it.
The Dolphin dynasty, according to all the signs, is emerging as the top story in professional football in 1972. Through 13 weeks, the Dolphin juggernaut has rolled through the NFL undefeated, untied, highly scoring, and hardly scored upon. And now in the last week of the regular season, only the decayed Baltimore Colts stood between the Dolphins and an historic, unprecedented 14th consecutive victory. Almost mechanically, without force of emotion, the Dolphin machine went smoothly to work, eating up the few minutes remaining in the perfect season of the Miami Dolphins. Number 26, Lloyd Mumford, led this assault on the Colts' new quarterback, Marty Domrez. Meanwhile, a familiar elder statesman stood by in obvious dismay. But when Domrez was overwhelmed and injured by Miami's title rush, the famed but aged quarterback John Unitas strode once again into the breach. But even this potentially dynamic situation was shortly diffused by the cool Dolphins. And in most probably his last appearance as a Baltimore Colt, Johnny U could direct no grand finale. And for the maestro, the moment was best forgotten. Garo Yepremian kicked the Dolphins into the lead. And Earl Morrall hit Paul Warfield to gain a 16-0 advantage as the Dolphins did what needed to be done to secure their undefeated season. Almost symbolically, this remarkable team, having won all year on depth, showed it would be well for the playoffs when Bob Greasy replaced Earl Morrall in the fourth period. And in this, the perfect season of the Miami Dolphins, perhaps only one dream went unfulfilled. Mercury Morris could not give the Dolphins two 1,000-yard rushers in a single season. He was forced to settle for 991 yards when he left the game with an injured ankle. And if there is any ill omen for the Dolphins, it is this game ankle, an injury perhaps needlessly sustained for individual achievement at the greater expense of the team. But in this professional game, who is to deny the man and the crowd the perfect thrill of excellence? Certainly not Don Shula, the author of the Dolphin dynasty and the man most responsible for this most perfect season.
Our congratulations to the Miami Dolphins and their fans, a truly well-coached, well-disciplined team that never let up, Pat.
Right on all counts, Tom. In fact, I think they could be considered the team of the year in our best of the year picks.
I agree, Pat, and although we've got a week to go in the show, let's make our best of the year picks. Now, based on the regular season, what are your thoughts about the rookies of the year?
Well, that's going to be a tough choice.
Yeah,
I think the two top contenders, in my idea at least, would be Chester Marcole from Green Bay and Franco Harris from Pittsburgh.
Marcole, the kicker, huh?
Right.
I'll throw in young Bertelsen, the rookie with the Rams, too. Those are
He had a good year, didn't he?
Real good.
What about, let's pick a comeback player of the year.
I've got to go with an old guy I know pretty well, Norm Snead of the New York Football Giants. I thought he did a great job leading that team.
He did have a spectacular year. He broke, in fact, the Giant team record for completing over 60% of his passes. Surprise of the year, what do you think?
Charlie Johnson. Gosh darn, he's just gone all over the league and ended up in Denver, and I think had one of the best years a quarterback could have anywhere. I would say Charlie, just for my pick.
That'd be a good choice. I think, gee, what happened to Earl Morrall would have to be sort of a surprise, too, don't you?
That's right. 14 years and 16 different teams.
Most valuable player, quickly.
Larry Brown, number 43, is my choice for the Redskins.
Agreed. Most courageous.
We could almost go back to Earl Morrall again after that many years.
Or Larry Brown, for that matter.
And Mercury Morris tried awfully hard to get that 1,000 on some bad wheels this year.
Let's make our last picks, then.
Okay, I'm 21-17. I keep reminding you of that. How about Green Bay at Washington? Pat?
I'll go with the Redskins.
I've got to go with the Redskins, too.
Okay, I
We're
can't
agreeing
catch
on
you like that. How about Cleveland, Miami?
I'm going to go for an upset. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to knock off the Dolphins.
I like Miami. At any rate, we'll be back next week to show you what happens, and we wish you happy holidays. I'm Pat Summerall.
I'm Tom Brookshire, and we'll see you next week.